Hey guys, good evening. It's another episode of Therapy Thursday. I'm your host, Dr. Dalvina, psychiatrist in South Florida. Are you ready to take the couch? So tonight I'm discussing the infamous coronavirus 19 vaccination. And I do have a guest who's joining me on the couch tonight. But first, this is important. I want you to understand why this is an essential discussion. The misconceptions and the myths about the COVID-19 vaccination has caused a lot of damage amongst family and friends, including physical damage, such as more than 70 cell phone towers were set on fire in the United Kingdom in April and May because of the alleged link to the spread of the virus via 5G. That's pretty dangerous, right? And meanwhile, in Europe, fear-mongering has also led to protests and attacks on masks. So I just want you guys to get the facts. We want to debunk the myths. I'm paraphrasing, but I believe it was D.L. Hughley said, I don't know what's in Tylenol, but I know when I have a headache and I take it, it works. So guys, join me as we discuss how these fast trials, as people have alluded to, the COVID-19 vaccine has resulted in us having finally a vaccination to help protect all of us against coronavirus 19. We're giving you just the facts tonight. Now, we know that COVID-19 vaccines have been approved, but how do they work? There are two approved vaccines. We have the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine is for people age 16 and older, whereas the Moderna vaccine is for people age 18 and older. Both of these vaccinations require 2 injections. The Pfizer vaccine, you have to take those 2 injections 21 days apart. The Moderna vaccine requires that you take the vaccination, the 2 injections, 28 days apart. And we see from both of these that we have greater than 90% efficacy 7 days after the second dose. It starts working, though, soon after the first dose. So both of these vaccines use something called messenger RNA, that's mRNA. COVID-19 mRNA vaccines give cells instructions for how to make a harmless piece of a protein. Basically, that is it. The mRNA is not changing your DNA or any of that, but we'll discuss that a little bit more. After the vaccination, cells begin making the protein pieces and displaying them on their cell surfaces. Your immune system will recognize that the protein doesn't belong there and begin building an immune response and making antibodies. What are the benefits? See, listen, I don't mess around, guys. I'm telling you the facts, some of the facts right from the beginning, because I want you to know this is going to be a very engaging discussion. If you have questions, I want you to send your questions in. So I'm going to go back to this slide here. The benefits of getting a COVID-19 vaccine is that it helps you to create an antibody response in your body without you having to become sick with COVID-19. It may just prevent you from getting COVID-19, or if you get COVID-19, the vaccine might keep you from becoming seriously ill or from developing serious complications. So, guys, please, you have to listen to this discussion and gain an understanding as to why you should take the vaccine. And the vaccine could prevent you from getting coronavirus 19 and could also prevent you from developing a very serious illness if you do still become infected with the vaccine. Now, you know, I'm a psychiatrist, I stay in my lane. So I got to bring on a very special guest tonight so that he can help have this discussion. I am introducing you to Dr. Sidney Coupet. You guys, he's an internal medicine physician with over 10 years of experience in providing primary care to ethnically and linguistically diverse patients. Dr. Coupet is the founder of Spark Health, an organization that supports clients and clinics to deliver comprehensive community healthcare services using an innovative membership model called direct primary care. In addition to that, Dr. Coupet is the Chief Medical Officer at Coupet Quality Clinic, which is the flagship center for Spark Health, and it's located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Welcome on my couch, Dr. Coupet.
Thank you, Dr. Delvita. And by the way, lovely couch, lovely couch.
Thank you.
I love
this couch. I love this couch. So listen, Dr. Coupet, I'm so glad that you're joining me on the couch because misinformation can lead to mistrust. And our nation has already been divided through politics and other things. We cannot allow health to continue to divide the nation. So let's dive into this dialogue, shall we?
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So just some review. I'm sure most people know this already, but let's just give a brief overview of what is COVID-19, what's the scientific name, and how is it spread?
Well, first of all, Dr. Lavina, thank you so much for this opportunity just to be able to talk with you in this couch, and hopefully all your viewers and listeners get something from this conversation. I gotta tell you, I think we all have already heard about this thing called COVID-19. And, to be honest, I don't think I can share anything that could be different from everyone. But I think it's important to identify a few things about what this virus is about. Number one, this thing started out of Wuhan, China. Okay. It's very important to know how this thing started. It's what you call a zoonotic infection. So in other words, it came from some sort of animal that transmitted to a human. Ideally, we were thinking possibly bats, etc. But either way, this is a zoonotic infection. This is a virus. It's not the first time we've encountered a zoonotic infection. In fact, this is not the first time we've encountered SARS. All right. So this COVID-19 is actually, the scientific name is called SARS-CoV-2. So it's SARS coronavirus 2. That's the scientific name for it. So anyway, that's what COVID-19, that's where it came from. And obviously, just like any virus, it spreads like wildfire and eventually becomes ubiquitous. And before we knew it, this epidemic that was located just in that arena, in that location in Europe, now all of a sudden became a pandemic in no time. As you can imagine, in March, it got to our community. And I have to say this also, I know when it first came out, we were thinking, can Black people get this thing? And I got to tell you, I hope you all know that Black people can get this thing. In fact,
yes, we can.
Clearly, we've been impacted unfairly. This thing has been like a super predator on us. And unfortunately, as we all know, this COVID-19 virus spreads very easily. We still believe that it spreads through respiratory droplets, right? So that means if somebody coughs on you, sneezes on you, those small little particles that you can't see, or if they use their hands to sneeze and they touch a doorknob and you go back after them and touch a doorknob. And we've learned a lot over the few months and now almost a year now, about this virus and how it's transmitted, how long it lives on different types of surfaces, for instance, right? So we know that it can exist in most surfaces for a good amount of time, at least enough time to transmit it to other people. What we also know that this virus, when we get ill from it, it causes a rapid and severe inflammatory process in our body, right? So we also know that that process and the inflammatory process can lead to people to either have just simple non-symptoms at all, to mild symptoms, all the way to severe symptoms where they have to end up in the hospital. And unfortunately, a lot of people in our community ended up with critical illness from this virus. And what we also learned is that, what puts people at risk of getting this severe to critical illness is people with comorbidities, right? People with diseases that either haven't been controlled, people with multiple diseases that they're dealing with. And as you know, Dr. Delvina, in our community, healthcare has been a struggle for us for many decades now. And in light of health disparities, and the gaps that exist, we are also unfairly hit with chronic diseases. And these are diseases that put us at risk of getting severe and critically ill with this virus. So we've learned quite a bit about this coronavirus and COVID-19 and this pandemic. So I don't know about you, but I'm happy that we've identified a solution and we're moving forward with that.
Yeah. And I'll say this, people are saying how long it took or how it didn't take long at all for us to develop this vaccine. It's like they're complaining. I'm like, listen, we are the United States of America. It's 2020 when they developed the vaccine, and now we're in 2021. You would expect that folks could develop something so quickly, so fast. Our technology should be at a point where we could develop such a vaccination so quickly. So you already mentioned some of the symptoms of COVID-19 infection. We don't need to go into that. The next question, let's talk vaccinations. Before we discuss COVID-19, let's just go over a brief history of vaccines. You know, in medical school, we had to learn about smallpox. Smallpox was the first vaccination that was developed inadvertently, really.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I remembered, back in 1980, we eradicated smallpox. And that's because of vaccination. And, in fact, I just want to mention to all our viewers and audience is that we have to understand that in the medical field, the single invention that medicine have ever created that has the biggest impact in saving generations of people is vaccinations. And so it just blows me away when we have these conversations on whether we should take vaccines or not. But vaccination has saved populations of people, and it continues to do so. I mean, Ebola in these different countries, it was an Ebola vaccination, which in fact, when Ebola first came out, because it wasn't as severe, they had stopped funding the science behind producing vaccination behind it. And it was private, entities that came together in countries that are dealing with Ebola that funded in developing the vaccine. So just to show you that vaccination is actually something that is very, very, a very powerful weapon that we have as a human race. And so I'm pretty excited about how we came about developing this COVID-19 vaccination.
Yeah. So how was the COVID-19 vaccine developed so quickly? A lot of patients are suspicious. A lot of people are suspicious for this reason that was developed so fast.
And that's okay in terms of suspicion. I like people who are curious and ask questions. The reality is this: we have a process in developing vaccinations. This process has not changed. I mean, we've been using this process for years, decades, generations. I mean, before you and I were born, Dr. Delvina, we've been using this process, right? We have a pre-phase, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We have a process of developing vaccinations. And within those phases is really to make sure not only we have something that's effective, but we have something that's safe. And so because of that, we do not, as scientists, go around or cut corners when it comes to this process. Now, clearly, when you have a pandemic like this and a crisis like this, we're in a race. We're in a race of coming up with solutions and at the same time saving as many lives as possible. And so indeed, you see a lot of people, a lot of efforts, a lot of brain power that came into play to try and come up with a solution. Now, what's interesting about this COVID-19 vaccine, we have started developing, mass producing this vaccine as early as March of 2020. People did not realize that, because we knew from the labs and from previous studies that were done years before that this is a possibility. And they started testing it out. They started doing a pre-phase study where essentially they use it on animals to see whether this thing actually does what it says it's doing. And then it goes right into a phase 1 trial. Now, yes, we are using a new technology. This new technology, fortunately for us, has been on the minds of scientists for a very long time. And this utilization of messenger RNA. And believe it or not, that's probably the only new approach in terms of the process. But using that, we were able to get to answers quicker. And so we have an emergency authorization utilization of this thing, so we can use it. And so I believe we're in a good place. We have a lot of information about the impact of this vaccine. And so, yes, we got it done. And I'm proud that I'm part of my colleagues were able to do this. I mean, this is amazing. This is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And I just want to interject that the colleagues who are responsible for this vaccination, including the research, the development, the science, the application, the trials, include people who look like you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the lead scientist was a Black woman.
Yes.
Black woman. I wonder if she was a Delta. Was she a Delta? Because I know you Deltas do big things,
She's probably a Delta. Yes, she's probably a Delta. And so you were talking about the basic makeup of COVID-19 vaccine. You mentioned mRNA. Let's talk really briefly about mRNA. We want to keep this as basic as possible. But actually, I think this is a great time for myth versus fact before we go into that. So let's play a game of myth versus fact. All right, you ready, Dr. Coupet?
I am ready. I am ready.
Okay, so guys, is it a myth or is it a fact? COVID-19 outbreak was intentionally planned by people in power. Is that a myth or is that a fact?
Man, that's a myth. Come on. We know better than that.
Yes, so COVID-19 was not intentionally planned by people in power, guys, not at all. Okay, myth versus fact. The vaccination for coronavirus 19 contains tracking chips that are later to be used or activated by 5G. Is that a myth or is that a fact?
Man, if we don't know by now, our cell phones have tracking chips, right? So they can track us anyway. But that's a big myth. They don't need a vaccine to track us.
Yay, that is a myth. Okay. All righty. So we were just discussing the information, the basics of the coronavirus 19 vaccine, what's the basic makeup, and also what is mRNA in basic terms.
You know, look, this is the deal. I mean, look, I'm not trying to train new scientists and physicians. This is the bottom line. We know there's a new field, genomics, of understanding genes, and we've been looking at this for decades. And a messenger RNA is simply, and by the way, everything have either messenger RNA or a DNA, right? That's what all creatures, all of us are made out of, right? And so we have that in our body. So the messenger RNA is a genetic coding that codes for a particular portion of this virus, which is the spike of this virus, just so it can read it, so our immune system can recognize it. So the vaccine certainly has that basically genetic, coding, right? Mm-hmm. So our immune system can recognize it. Now, for that genetic coding to get into our immune system, so our immune system can recognize it and build that defense that you hear we talk about, right? It needs a vehicle to transmit that. And look, I'm not going to tell you the long names of all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, it has oil and sugar. Okay, I'm going to say it. It's like, it's the things that make oil and things that make sugar. It's like lipid, proteins, all these little things, from sucrose. They have it in that vaccine to transmit that so it can get to our immune system so we can recognize it and build the defense appropriately so we can prevent from getting sick if indeed we get in contact with this virus. So in a nutshell, that's what the vaccine has in it. And we can go into the scientific details. You can look into it, check the facts, right? And you will see that essentially it's very harmless materials that are in this vaccine.
Okay, so you just pretty much answered the next question, which was, how does the vaccine work? How does it protect us? So you just offered up that information. All righty, so next question, what is the dosing schedule? For folks who may have missed my introduction, I did go over that, but tell us about the dosing schedule, Dr. Coupet.
So yes, we have two pharmaceuticals that came up with the two vaccines, right? Pfizer and Moderna. We all heard about that. And essentially both of them are similar, okay? Because at the end of the day, they all have to have two doses in order for you to be fully immune and to get the benefits of where you'll be 90 to 95% protected from this virus, right? So the Pfizer, for instance, the first dose is given to you, and then you have to wait about 21 days. Now, keep in mind, if somebody gets this vaccine, let's say 4 days before the 21 days, that's okay. Okay, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to change anything. Mm-hmm. But we don't want you to get earlier than that. So you have to wait at least about 21 days for the next dose. Now, let's just say you waited greater than a month or 2 months for the second dose. That's okay. Get the vaccine. Get your second dose. And when you get your second dose, you will too have full immunity and get the benefit of this vaccination. It's important to know that. But the recommendations for the Pfizer, though, is 21 days between each dose. Now, the Moderna vaccine, also similar. For them, it's take about just a month, like 28 days, right? Mm-hmm. Again, same thing. Look, get with your providers, your physicians in the community. Speak to them. If you don't have a doctor, you should have a doctor to have this dialogue. Because at the end of the day, when you get your first dose, you wait the 28 days if it's the Moderna vaccine. If you, for some reason, went on a trip and it's 29 days or 30 days, get the vaccine. You don't have to restart the dosing again, okay? Meaning start from scratch. You can still get your second dose. And again, what we've seen in some studies now that's coming out is that you can get it as early as 4 days before the actual recommended 28 days for Moderna or 21 days for Pfizer before the second dose. And so that's how it's administered. And so I would all encourage everybody in our community to get in line because it's coming. And we want all of us to get it because clearly we've been impacted the most in this whole pandemic. And it makes no sense for us not to be the first to get it.
Right, right. So we have some questions that came into the comment log. So we'll get to your questions in a second, guys. The one thing I'd like to know, I had a patient sent in a question previous to this live, and they wanted to know, should they get the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine?
Well, listen, flip your coin, right? Heads or tails. And I mean, at the end of the day, 94.1%, 95% effective. To be at the end of the day, look, I will practice my options with either one of them, right? So whatever's available, whatever comes first, because both of them are effective. Both of them have the same side effect profiles. And look, there are people in our community that has been involved in the testing. First of all, I want to shout out to them for taking the chance, for being heroes. They're heroes in my eyes.
They are heroes, yes.
They went in blind, not knowing what to expect, just so they can save our society, save our community, to come up with a solution such as a vaccine. Now they did that. They're walking around us right now. And there's been Black and brown people in these studies, right? Mm-hmm. So we know what's going on. So I look, take the vaccine. I mean, that I would just practice my options, whether if it's Moderna, Pfizer, whichever is available, because I know some states, they've already got the Pfizer, they've already distributing it to some of the healthcare providers. They've distributed some to some of the nursing facilities. But again, it's whatever's available based on your county, and just speak to them. Speak to your local clinics and community clinics. They'll be able to tell you which one they're getting.
Yeah. And it may just be based on availability too. I don't even know that we have Moderna in our section of the country yet. So guys who are just joining us, I'm talking with Dr. Sidney Coupet, who's an internist, an internal medicine physician, and we're discussing the coronavirus 19 vaccine. We've already gone through, we did a brief overview of coronavirus 19, the symptoms it causes, and also how we arrived at this point of developing the COVID-19 vaccination, including the expeditious way that the researchers and the doctors and the scientists were able to create this vaccination. Just a brief overview, it is composed of mRNA. mRNA is messenger RNA, and it's just a protein that the body will quickly break down. We played a little game of myth versus fact. It is not true that coronavirus has anything to do with 5G. There are no chips in the vaccine, so you don't have to worry about that. So I have a question here. Is it true if you receive the vaccination, you will never acquire or have the coronavirus? Is that, oh, wait a minute, let me go. Let's do myth versus fact. Okay, myth versus fact. Oops, wrong one. Myth versus fact. So if you get the COVID-19 vaccine, you'll never acquire coronavirus 19. Is that a myth or a fact, Dr. Coupet?
No, if I can do both, I would, but I'll say this is a myth. This is
all right. It's a myth, guys.
So that's it's like saying, if I get the flu vaccine, will I get the flu? Look,
right.
We know there's many strands of coronavirus. This is not our first time dealing with a coronavirus, but this is our first time dealing with such a severe and really infectious virus, such as this coronavirus called COVID-19. Now, what do we know? We know so far, because this is science in the making, people. Look, this is live in effect. We are going to be in the history books, right? Because hindsight is always 20/20. But we as scientists, we always say, this is what we believe. We can never say things are 100%. Now, you get this vaccine. What we do know is that you're protected you're protected from that particular strain. Now, can you get it? Can somebody sneeze and cough on you and you are infected with this virus? Absolutely. Now the question is, will you get sick? How sick will you get? Now, because you have the vaccine in your system, you have a better chance. And 94, 95%, man, that's one bet I want to take, because at the end of the day, we can't 100% say that there's not another virus out there. There's not another strand of this virus called, coronavirus. This particular one we call COVID-19. We know from what we know before that if you get sick from this and you recovered, we've seen so far at least people who are 6 to 7 months not being able to get this again, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, we have to look into it. Would this thing be seasonal? We don't know. But these are things that we have a lot of questions. But for right now, we want to stop the bleeding. We want to stop the bleeding. And let's get to this herd immunity level and get people vaccinated.
Okay. All right. I have another question from the gallery. Which vaccine should a senior age 65 and over get? Pfizer or Moderna?
Well, either one. Either one.
Okay.
As you can imagine, I think Pfizer, you have to be 16 and above, Moderna 18 and above. I don't care what's going on in your life. Okay. You are eligible for this vaccination.
Got it. I've been infected with COVID-19. Should I still get the vaccine?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, you should be online. Now, the question is, how soon do you get the vaccine, right? There's a lot of conversations around that. And what we find is that, in essence, once you recover from the infection of the COVID-19 that you had, you're able to get the vaccine. There's been conversations on how long you have to wait. Again, check with your physicians and your providers in the community so they can guide you guys, okay? We don't expect you to have all the answers and make these decisions on your own, but absolutely. You've been infected with it, you recovered, you need the vaccination.
Okay. What about folks who are immunocompromised, people who have things like lupus and cancer and HIV and AIDS? Is it recommended that they get the vaccine, Dr. Coupet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we want them to be first on line, right? Because they're at risk. These are the people who are dying in the hospitals, right? We know that. These are the folks that are more vulnerable. And so absolutely, yes, please, if you are dealing with any medical problems, in addition to all the chronic diseases from diabetes, hypertension, yes, absolutely. I think this vaccination is for you as well.
So let's talk about what someone should expect after the injection. They go and get the first dose, which we mentioned, guys, there's 2 doses, 2 administrations. The second one is the booster. But so someone goes and they get their first injection. What should they expect? Should they expect to have any side effects or any adverse reactions? If so, what types of possible reactions have been appreciated or shown in studies? Or from some of your patients, maybe, Dr. Coupet?
Well, listen, I'm not even going to go there because I hate talking from the stands. You know me, Dr. Delvina. I don't talk from the stands. I talk on the court. So I'll tell you, I had my first dose of this vaccine. And let me tell you what happened to me. I went to work out the next day, right? I went to the gym just to test it out a little bit. My arms were a little sore, okay, from the injection site. I took a look at it. I didn't have any redness. This is, again, my personal reaction to this. 3 days later, I may felt a little bit like maybe a malaise, but that was it. I felt great. So what am I saying? People can get pain. People can have mild symptoms, maybe even a little bit of nausea, maybe even fever, which is the more severe. But at the end of the day, these are not side effects. I want to say this, meaning that doesn't mean that you're allergic, I should say, to the vaccine. These are
side effects, but it's not allergies.
It's not allergies, exactly. It's side effects, but it's not allergies. Just because I had this little sore, I need to work it out a little bit more though. But just because I have a sore bicep doesn't mean that I'm allergic to it. It's just a mild side effect. We expect that because what they're injecting in you is a program, a gene that does not cause the severe illness. It's just a portion of that virus, just so your immune system can work. So if I'm having a little soreness, that's good news. That means my immune system is responding. When I feel a little bit of malaise, that means my immune system is responding. If you develop fever, that means your immune system is working and this vaccine works. And so those are the side effects that your body is telling you that, look, the immune system is working. is building its defense. So because it sees something it doesn't recognize, and now it's building the right cells. So next time something like that comes into play, it has the right weapon for it. So again, those are side effects, whether if it's tenderness, some people may have like redness in this injection site. Those are the type of things, side effects that happens with this injection.
And I'll add, I know some of my physician colleagues have taken the vaccination, and a few of them said they were very tired and fatigued. They couldn't go to work the next day. So I just want to be totally transparent. Everyone's the possible side effects will depend on the person. It's different for each person. There are some folks who have had the vaccine and they didn't have any issues, none at all, just the soreness and in the injection site. And so if you take Tylenol prior to the injection, Tylenol after, that will help with the soreness in the injection site and also help with the body soreness and malaise that you might feel. And yes, some people have been fatigued and felt very tired. So
absolutely. And if I may add too, Dr. Delvina, well said too. And if you have any medical problems from high blood pressure, diabetes, take your medications. You can take all your medications and then go get vaccinated, right? Because some people are holding back on some medications because of the concerns for that. But again, just to reiterate what you said, I think, everybody's going to be different. This is why it's important for us to really understand that when people report their side effects, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with this vaccine.
Yeah. Okay, so talk about Bell's palsy. That's a popular question that people ask. Can the coronavirus 19 vaccine lead to or cause Bell's palsy? Has it happened?
Look, let me tell you something. If I go around this country and cough on every single person in this country, I believe 1, 2, or 3 people is going to develop Bell's palsy. I want you to get what we're saying here. The thing is, the vaccination studies have shown that the rate of Bell's palsy is the same as the general public. That means basically there's no cause and effect here, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, there's about I think it was 0.01%, and you could fact check me on both vaccinations, Pfizer and Moderna, 0.01% chance of developing Bell's palsy. Look, I'm not a statistician, but listen, that's risk I'm willing to take. Number one. Number two, we know that this thing does not have a cause and effect. The studies doesn't show that right now. And that's with all vaccinations at that. Okay, so we need to consider when we think about, the impact of Bell's palsy or autism. That's another thing we're hearing. Can autism develop? No. I mean, that was disproved a long time ago that vaccinations cause autism. And there's multiple very good scientific studies that shown and disproved that. But again, to answer your viewer's question, the answer is no. And you should get the vaccination. And the rate of Bell's palsy is not any different than if I was to do nothing in this population. And the same amount of people that got Bell's palsy will be the same amount of people that would get Bell's palsy if they didn't get the vaccination.
Thank you. Thank you for debunking that myth. From one of my patients, Keiko Nator. Hello, Dr. Thomas. This is one of your patients. Wanted to ask about the vaccine. It's been said that the virus mutated. Will the vaccine still work with the new variation of the virus? What's the update about that, Dr. Coupet? We all heard about the mutation.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think we know that yet. We are not sure whether this current vaccination would work. Theoretically, it should not, right? If it's a different strand, right? And so would we need to develop another vaccine? That's possible. But as of right now, we know that the COVID-19 coronavirus and this vaccination definitely is the solution for that COVID-19. And we're still dealing with that in communities worldwide. And so this new strand, we're still looking into it, and we're looking at to see, okay, what is the next step? I think there's a lot of questions with that, but the answer is we don't know. We don't know whether this vaccine will have an impact, and probably if this is a different strand, it may not, and we may need a new vaccine.
Okay. And so along those lines, someone has asked Ms. Price, hey, Ms. Price, since there are variations of this virus, will we have to vaccinate every year like the flu shot?
This is what we're predicting. So yearly vaccinations, is this something that we might end up falling into? This is probably likely. because, when you think about how these viruses, they go in waves, and unfortunately, not everyone's going to be immunized. And this virus is going to linger. Now, how long? Not sure. And will it carry over until throughout this year? Possibly, maybe even up until this fall. So it's something to look into. But I do believe it might be seasonal.
Okay. And so this is a quick answer. Someone is asking, if you do have side effects from the COVID vaccine, what is put into place to help the individual? I would say supportive care. So if you're having pain, Tylenol. If you have a fever, Tylenol, something like that. Would you add anything to that, Dr. Coupet?
I think that was perfect.
Under what medical circumstances should one not take the vaccine? I know one.
Well, listen, I'll tell you this. The only one that I respect is if you've ever had the coronavirus and you had an allergic reaction, and I'm talking about what defines as allergic reaction to that vaccine, then maybe you shouldn't take the vaccine.
Okay. And I read recently also pregnant women. So they said that they did not intentionally or knowingly test the vaccine on pregnant women, because that's not an ethical thing to do, to include pregnant people in these types of research studies. So pregnant women were not knowingly a part of the studies while researching this vaccination.
And I have to say, it doesn't mean that there's a contraindication or that it should not get this. Again, I do believe that, if you're pregnant, you need to have this conversation with your physician and your provider, because it's an individual thing. And right now, there are some pregnant women who got the vaccine, and they're looking at the impact of that. So if it's ethical or not, the issue is that they're in our community and they're at risk. And so, but at least what we can do is we need to take this vaccine for them. Because if I take that vaccine, I therefore, in essence, protect them from the virus. So this is the aspect and the concept of herd immunity. So as we're learning more and understanding more about this vaccination, which we will, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you all, I mean, this is a comfortable couch, and I want to stay on this couch and all, but I think it's important to remember, if anything I said today, we are in a time that's unprecedented. This is a time that none of us have. The last time we've ever been in a time like this, 1918, right? Where there's such a huge viral pandemic. People are dying, and science is in the making. We are actually seeing science in the making. And it's so funny, because for me, as a physician scientist, we are used to this development of science, or what we call evidence-based medicine, right? There's a body of work that shows that the evidence support what we're doing. We know what it takes to get to that point. This is the first time that a light is shined on us from all disciplines who are looking at us, right? And yes, medicine, surprise, is an art. Medicine is not perfect. And so I think we all have to understand that, and this is science in the making. So we have to be patient, but at the same time, practice the options that are offered to us. The options that we know right now that works is this vaccination.
Okay, thank you for that. And I just want to clarify, I didn't say it's unethical for pregnant women to get the vaccine. I said during the studies, to have a pregnant woman participate as in the research for the studies for the vaccine, it was considered unethical. So all righty, guys. The next question is, if you have underlying health conditions such as kidney disease, kidney transplant, high blood pressure, or diabetes, should we take the vaccine? And the answer is a big yes. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
You should absolutely take the vaccine.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's see. Let's talk about, I'm going to leave the gallery for a second to just go back to myth versus fact. I keep pushing the wrong one. Myth versus fact. So, Dr. Coupet, is this a myth or a fact? The mRNA vaccine is not a live virus.
That actually is a fact. It's not a live virus.
Okay. Yes, coronavirus 19 vaccine is not a live virus. So that is a fact. Thank you so much for that. So people are asking again, how long will it provide immunity, this vaccination? Give me a short answer, Dr. Coupet, because we got like 20 minutes left. So we got to run through some more questions.
Man. Hey, listen, look, this immunity thing is what we all looking forward to seeing. We know so far greater than 6 months, it's providing immunity. This vaccination is protecting us, and it's buying a lot of time, enough time. So greater than 6 months for sure. And we look forward to seeing if it does more than that.
Okay. All righty. So has anyone died from the coronavirus 19 vaccine directly as a direct cause of the COVID-19 vaccination?
The answer is no. And I want to say this with caution, because a lot of people are linking certain reactions, some adverse reactions that occurred to the vaccination. And we have not confirmed whether this vaccination has caused these rare incidents that are happening. Just like Bell's palsy, right? We know that the vaccine doesn't have a direct connection to it. So the answer is no. No one has died from this vaccination. None of the studies have shown that. As we are vaccinating people, there are these incidents that are people reporting in our community that, oh, this person died from this person had this. And we just have to understand that there's other factors, right? Because that could be confounding, that could actually cause that same reaction. So we have to be very careful. So the answer is no. No one has died from this vaccination.
Okay. So just a few pointers here. If someone has had coronavirus 19, how long should they wait before they get the COVID-19 vaccine?
Great question. And, now CDC has changed their recommendations. It had specific time frame from, greater than, 300 days or 30 days, et cetera, whatever it was. But right now, at the end of the day, this decision is going to be made between you and your physician. The reality is, once you recover, you have no symptoms, no fevers, no chills. And just to step back for a moment, those are things you have to check in before you go and get the vaccine. Preferably is when you're not sick is when you should get this vaccination. And so that's really the answer to that question.
Okay. And what if someone has just received the flu vaccination? How long should they wait at least to get the coronavirus 19 vaccine?
They can get it right after. I don't think it's a contraindication to get the flu and then get the coronavirus vaccine. Now, how many days in between you wait? Again, those side effects we were talking about?
Yeah.
The arm pains, the malaise, and so forth. I mean, people wait on average a week or 2 weeks and see how things transpire. And if everything goes okay and they don't have any type of symptoms, then yes, they should go ahead and get the COVID-19 vaccination.
Yeah. Some hospitals are making people wait 14 days and some hospitals are doing 30 days. But as you said, there's really no reason to wait if you're not experiencing symptoms.
Absolutely.
All righty, guys. I think we pretty much covered everything. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to post them. We're getting the questions from Facebook and from YouTube here in our comment log. All righty. So we've gone over how long it'll provide immunity. We're not sure. We don't know yet. Remember, this is an ongoing study. There is another question. I'm sorry. How does it affect so-called long haulers? How does the coronavirus 19 vaccine affect long haulers?
Long haulers. You're going to have to help me with that, Dr.
I don't know what she means by that. Let me ask her if she can expound.
I mean, is that like people who haul trucks? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll ask her. We're not sure the question, Ms. King. If you could give us further explanation, that would be great. And so in conclusion, both Pfizer and Moderna are both considered safe vaccinations. The side effects are very similar and it responds the same in the body. So you guys, you don't have to, it's not rocket science. You don't have to go do a long research project in determining or deciding what you'll take, whether you'll take the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine. I have two questions about allergies. Someone actually, I almost forgot about this. They wrote in prior to the live a couple of days ago and asked, if you have a seafood allergy, is it safe to take the vaccine?
Yeah, the answer is yes. In fact, to be completely candid, this is probably one of the safest vaccines that we've actually invented in essence, because we did not make this with what we know the flu vaccine is made out of, right? It's made with preservatives. It's made with eggs. It's, there's all these latex, for instance. There's contents in these other vaccines that is not in this coronavirus vaccine. And so this coronavirus vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, is actually, in my opinion, safer. And so when you look at all what it has in it, and as I mentioned earlier, and I'm making fun of it when I said oil and sugar, but in essence, the components of this vaccine is very, very harmless. It's stuff that we actually ingest, put on our skin on a day-to-day basis already. And so I think, yes, people with, shell food allergies or egg allergy, they all can take this vaccine.
And someone asked now about an allergy to sulfur drugs. Any news about this is a question from David Lee.
No, not at all. I think you have a sulfur allergy, allergic to particular medications, for instance. This vaccine is also safe with you as well.
Okay. So so Ms. King, she defined what she meant. She says she's wondering if the virus is okay for how does it affect? Oh, she wants to know how the vaccine affects people who've had the virus over a very long period of time, such as months.
So, I'm not quite sure what the question really asked, but if you have the virus, if you're infected with coronavirus, ideally it's a symptom or disease illness that lasts on average about 5 to 14 days, right? Depending on your symptoms, etc., just so you can recover. Now, but to test positive for coronavirus, you can test positive for as long as 30 days because the virus, the remnants of this virus still is in your system. So you can test positive. Even though you test positive, doesn't mean that you're still sick. And so we are looking at the length of time that you test positive. You can test positive within 30 to 60 days, even after being contacted with this virus. So being tested positive is not a contraindication to getting the vaccination. So, I mean, again, if you're not sick and if you've recovered enough time and your physicians and whoever's administering the vaccine is aware of this, then they'll let you know exactly when to come in to get vaccinated. But you should get vaccinated for sure.
Got it. So these are my last two questions, and then we'll move on to our final slide. I'm so glad you joined me tonight. Thank you so much for this wealth of information. Now that we have the vaccine, has the research stopped, Dr. Coupet?
Oh, no, come on. We can't stop research, right? No, there's not at all. Not at all. In fact, we're learning a lot more. And the more and more that we learn about these vaccinations, the more we are more confident of the fact that this is our way out. This is our way out back to whatever you guys call normality, going back to our normal lives, right? Routines. I got to tell you, though, and just to step aside just a little bit, wearing a mask, and I know people ask me that, even though you're vaccinated, you should still wear your mask, right? Because, at the end of the day, we're concerned about COVID-19, but there's a lot more other things that we're protecting ourselves from as well. Wearing a mask is the respectable thing to do. And what is going back to normal? I mean, look, it's a new style. And to be frank, I don't think people need more information for them to wear a mask.
Yeah.
You need to find a way to influence and encourage people to wear their mask, but giving them information about the virus is not going to make them wear their mask. So I think we have to think about how we are looking at encouraging people to wear their mask. And so it's the same thing with this vaccination. Take the vaccine, wear your mask, and there's nothing more to it. That's the only way we're going to win this war against this coronavirus.
Yeah, so let's do one more myth versus fact. Just one more myth versus fact.
Let's see this here.
Once you get the coronavirus vaccine, you do not have to wear your mask.
That's a myth.
That is a myth. You must wear your mask even after you get the coronavirus 19 vaccine. Please continue to wear your mask, everyone. And the last question, who should get the vaccine?
Everyone. I mean, what do you mean? Who should get it? Everyone. I mean, if you're 16 and above, 18 and above, get the vaccine. At least line up to get it, because right now we're dealing with a distribution issue. We're dealing with, I guess, a stock issue, making sure that we have enough vaccine for everyone. So as it is made available, get the vaccine, especially if it's being offered to you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's see. It's time for just a little wrap up, guys. I just want to go over a couple of things so that you are aware. I just want to review a few things. Can a COVID-19 vaccine give you COVID-19? No, the COVID-19 vaccine currently being developed in the United States does not use live virus that causes COVID-19. All righty, guys. But keep in mind, it'll take a few weeks for your body to build immunity after getting the vaccination. Should I get the COVID-19 vaccine even if I've already had COVID-19? Absolutely, yes, you should. It is highly recommended that you still get the COVID-19 vaccine. If you've had COVID-19, wait. It says here 90 days after you're diagnosed, get the COVID-19 vaccine. Will a COVID-19 vaccine alter my DNA? We played myth versus fact. That is absolutely a myth. The COVID-19 mRNA vaccines do not change or interact with your DNA at all in no shape, form, or fashion. What are the possible side effects of a COVID-19 vaccine? Miss Darlene just came on the live. Thank you, Miss Darlene, for joining us. And you asked about diarrhea, if that was a side effect. Here are some of the common side effects we hear people reporting: pain, redness, or swelling where the shot was given, fever, fatigue, headache, muscle pain, chills, and joint pain. So more than likely, you'll be monitored for 15 minutes after you get the vaccination to see if you have an immediate reaction. Most side effects will occur within the first 3 days, and that's what I've been hearing from my colleagues after vaccination, and typically lasts only 1 to 2 days. So you guys will be okay. Dr. Coupet, thank you so much for joining me on my couch yet again. I appreciate you.
Listen, no, thank you so much for the invite, Dr. Delvita. And the couch is comfortable. And I hope I get to come back again. And this time I'll bring wine with me. How about that?
Wine is good. Let me hear you say brain love.
Brain love. My goodness.
And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight.